Why willpower is failing you. If willpower worked, your life would already be fixed. Let that sit for a second, because this isn't an insult, it's a relief. If trying harder actually worked, if motivation really lasted, if discipline was just something you could decide to have, you wouldn't still be stuck in the same cycle, starting strong, feeling unstoppable for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, then slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, you slip. One skipped workout, one late night, one "I'll do it tomorrow," and suddenly you're back where you started. Only now you feel worse, because now it's not just the failure, it's the story you tell yourself about the failure. What's wrong with me? Why can't I stay consistent? Why do I always do this? Other people have discipline, why don't I? Listen to me very carefully. That voice in your head, that frustration, that disappointment, it's not proof that you're weak. It's proof that you've been lied to. You've been taught to believe that success comes from willpower, from motivation, from pushing harder, from forcing yourself to be someone you're not. And every time it doesn't work, you turn the blame inward. But here's the truth nobody ever sits you down and explains. Willpower is not strength, it's endurance, and endurance always runs out. Think about how willpower actually works in real life. You wake up motivated, you tell yourself, today is different. You resist your phone, you eat better, you focus, you say no to distractions, and it feels good. You feel in control, you feel proud. But what's actually happening is you're burning mental energy every second. Every decision costs you something. Should I check my phone or not? Should I eat this or not? Should I skip today or not? Should I start now or later? You're negotiating with yourself all day long, and nobody tells you this part. Your brain gets tired before your body ever does. By the end of the day, or the end of the week, or the end of the month, you don't fail because you're lazy, you fail because you're exhausted. And when exhaustion hits, your brain doesn't ask for permission, it takes control. That's why one bad day turns into a bad week. That's why stress destroys habits overnight. That's why motivation disappears exactly when you need it most. Willpower is like holding your breath underwater. At first, you feel strong, you feel in control, but the longer you hold it, the louder the panic gets, until your body takes over, and you gasp, that collapse, that moment where you say, "I'll start again tomorrow." That's not failure, that's biology. But instead of being taught this, you were told to just be disciplined. You were told successful people want it more, that they're built differently, that if you really cared you'd push through. So when you don't push through, you feel broken. You start collecting proof against yourself. I never finish what I start. I can't stay consistent. I'm all talk. I'm just not that kind of person. And that identity, that quiet belief, does more damage than any failure ever could. Here's something that might shock you. The people who look the most disciplined, the calm ones, the consistent ones, the people who seem locked in, they are not fighting themselves all day. They are not negotiating with their brain every morning. They are not depending on motivation to show up. In fact, they've designed their life so motivation is optional. They don't rely on willpower because they learned something early. Willpower is expensive, and when something is expensive, you don't build your life around constantly paying for it. You reduce the cost, but you were never taught how to do that. Instead, you were handed a life full of friction. Your phone next to your bed, junk food within arm's reach, no clear schedule, no structure, no default. And then you were told to be strong inside that chaos. That's like asking someone to walk uphill forever and calling them weak when their legs give out. Let me ask you something honestly. If you had to fight temptation every single day, if every good habit required a daily battle, if every decision drained you, how long do you think you'd last? A week? A month? A year? Exactly. Now here's the part that changes everything. You don't actually rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And right now, whether you realize it or not, your system is perfectly designed to give you the life you currently have. Your habits, your environment, your default, they are producing your results automatically. And then you try to overpower them with willpower. That's why it feels like swimming upstream. Your environment is pulling you one way. Your intentions are pulling you the other. And you blame yourself for not swimming harder. Let me make this painfully clear. You don't need more motivation. You don't need better affirmations. You don't need another hype video. You need to stop designing a life that requires hero-level willpower just to function. Because you are human. You will have bad days. You will feel tired. You will feel unmotivated. You will feel overwhelmed. That is not a flaw. The flaw is believing you should feel on all the time. The flaw is building a life that only works when you feel perfect, and then punishing yourself when you don't. Here's the shift that changes everything. Instead of asking, how do I force myself to do this? You start asking, how do I make this automatic? Instead of fighting your nature, you design around it. Instead of demanding strength, you remove friction. Instead of relying on motivation, you build systems that don't care how you feel. Systems that work on your worst days. Systems that carry you when your energy is low. Systems that don't require you to be a superhero. Because real discipline is not intensity, it's design. And once you see this, you can't unsee it. You'll realize that most of your failures were never personal, they were structural. And in the next chapter, I'm going to show you exactly where the willpower lie came from, why it was taught to you, and how it's quietly kept millions of people stuck for decades. Not because they're weak, but because they were taught the wrong game. Stay with me, because once we break that illusion, everything else becomes possible. Chapter 2. The willpower lie you were taught. Let's talk about where this lie actually came from, because it didn't start with you. You were not born believing that success requires constant motivation. You were not born thinking discipline means suffering. You were not born assuming that if something feels hard, it means you're failing. That belief was installed, slowly, quietly, repeatedly, until it felt like truth. And once you see where it came from, you'll stop attacking yourself for not being able to live up to it. Let's start at the beginning. Think about how you were taught to succeed. Not what people said, but what they rewarded. In school, you were praised for effort, not efficiency. You were rewarded for pushing, not for designing a system that worked. You were told things like, try harder, focus more, stop being lazy. If you really cared, you'd do it. You're not living up to your potential. And on the surface, that sounds motivating, because effort looks like strength, struggle looks noble, grinding looks heroic, exhaustion looks like commitment. But here's the part nobody explains. Effort is visible. Systems are invisible. So effort gets praised, even when it's inefficient, even when it's unsustainable, even when it's slowly destroying people. This is why hustle culture glorifies burnout, why being busy feels important, why rest feels like guilt, why consistency without pain feels fake. You were trained to believe that if something is working, it should hurt, and if it doesn't hurt, you must not be doing enough. That belief alone has silently crushed millions of people. Let me show you how early this conditioning starts. Think back to school. You're expected to sit still, for hours, in a chair, with your body frozen, your energy ignored, your brain overstimulated. And when your focus drops, when your mind wanders, when boredom creeps in, what are you told? Pay attention. Try harder. Focus. Stop daydreaming. No one ever asks, why is this environment fighting human biology? Why are we expecting focus without movement? Why is this designed in a way that drains energy instead of supporting it? So you internalize the blame. I have bad focus. I'm easily distracted. I'm not disciplined. Not realizing you were placed in a system that required constant willpower just to function. Then you grow up, and the pattern doesn't disappear. It just gets more dangerous. At work, you're expected to be productive for 8, 10, sometimes 12 hours, in front of screens, with constant notifications, emails, meetings stacked on meetings, no real recovery time. And when your energy collapses, when your motivation disappears, you don't question the structure. You question yourself. What's wrong with me? Why can't I stay consistent? Why am I tired all the time? Why can everyone else handle this? You were never taught to ask the more important question. Why is my life designed to require non-stop willpower just to survive? Because here's the truth. Willpower was never meant to be a lifestyle. It was meant to be an emergency resource, a short-term override, a temporary push, a last resort, not the foundation of your entire identity. But modern culture flipped it. We turned willpower into a virtue. We idolize the person who wakes up at 4 a.m. on motivation alone. We worship the grind. We celebrate people who override their biology. And we ignore the quiet ones, the calm ones, the consistent ones, the people who don't talk about discipline at all, because their success doesn't look dramatic, looks boring, and boring doesn't sell. So here's what happens. You watch motivational content. You feel inspired. You promise yourself, this time is different. And for a short while, it works. You wake up earlier. You eat better. You focus more. And then something stressful happens. Life interrupts. Sleep drops. Emotions spike. And suddenly, everything collapses. Not because you stopped caring, but because your mental battery ran out. Let me explain willpower in the simplest human way possible. Willpower is your brain saying, I don't want to do this, but I will anyway. For now. That for now is everything. Because willpower pulls from the same mental energy used for decision-making, emotional control, stress regulation, impulse resistance, focus. Every decision drains it. Every temptation resisted drains it. Every emotion suppressed drains it. Every distraction fought drains it. That's why you feel strongest in the morning and weakest at night. That's why your standards drop when you're tired. That's why stress destroys habits overnight. It's not a mindset issue. It's energy economics. And when that energy is gone, your brain doesn't ask about your goals. It defaults to comfort. Comfort is not weakness. Comfort is survival. Your brain is wired to preserve energy, avoid pain, reduce effort. So when willpower disappears, biology takes over. Every time. Now here's the part nobody wants to admit. Highly disciplined people do not have more willpower than you. They use less. Read that again. They don't rely on willpower. They design it out of their life. They make fewer decisions. They reduce friction. They remove temptation. They automate behavior. Not because they're cold or robotic, but because they understand something you were never taught. Discipline is not self-control. It's self-design. But design isn't sexy. Design doesn't look heroic. Design doesn't feel like suffering. So culture ignores it. Let me give you a simple example. Two people want to work out. Person A waits for motivation, relies on willpower, argues with themselves every morning. Person B has clothes laid out, gym scheduled, no decision to make. Person A looks disciplined. They're fighting. Person B looks lucky. They're flowing. But only one of them will still be doing this in 6 months. Now here's where the lie becomes dangerous. When you believe success requires constant willpower, you assume failure means a flaw in your character. So instead of changing the system, you try to change yourself. You download another planner, another app, another motivational video, but the structure stays the same. The friction stays the same. The environment stays the same. So the outcome stays the same. And every cycle adds another layer of shame, until you quietly accept an identity you never chose. I'm inconsistent. I can't stick to things. I always fall off. That identity becomes a cage. But let me tell you something clearly. Consistency is not a personality trait. It's a structural outcome. People who show up consistently are not stronger. They are supported. Their environment supports the behavior. Their defaults support the habit. Their life is aligned with the outcome. And when things are aligned, force disappears. But alignment doesn't happen by accident. It's built. And nobody taught you how. Because it doesn't sound inspirational. But it works. Here's another uncomfortable truth. Motivation is reactive. Systems are proactive. Motivation waits for feeling. Systems act regardless. Motivation asks, do I feel like it today? Systems say, this is what happens next. And the most dangerous sentence you were ever taught is, I'll do it when I feel ready. Because readiness is emotional, and emotions are unstable. If your life depends on feeling ready, you'll always be waiting. That's why so many people live in preparation mode, learning, planning, watching, but never moving, because willpower tells you action requires feeling. But reality works the opposite way. Action creates feeling, not the other way around. You don't feel motivated and then act. You act, and motivation follows. But that truth destroys the willpower myth, because it removes the drama and replaces it with responsibility for design. Let me slow this down. If you believe discipline is about fighting yourself, you will always be tired. If you believe success requires intensity, you will always burn out. If you believe consistency requires motivation, you will always feel broken when motivation fades. But if you understand this one shift, that behavior is shaped more by environment than character. Everything changes. Failure becomes feedback, not a verdict. It tells you something is misaligned, not that you are weak. And this is the moment people split. Some hear this and keep trying harder. Others hear this and wake up. They stop asking, how do I push harder? And start asking, how do I make this easier to do automatically? They stop worshiping discipline and start building systems. And suddenly, life stops feeling like a war, not because they became better people, but because they stopped playing a rigged game. In the next chapter, we're going to expose the real enemy, not willpower, not motivation, but the invisible force shaping your behavior every single day, your environment. And once you see how powerful it is, you'll realize why nothing changed until now. Stay with me, because now we stop explaining the problem and start dismantling it. Chapter 3. The real enemy, your environment, not you. I want you to listen to this without defending yourself, without explaining why your situation is harder, without trying to prove that you've already tried everything. Just listen, because the truth I'm about to say is not meant to blame you, it's meant to release you. Your life is not shaped by what you want to do. It's shaped by what is easy to do, not what you intend, not what you promise yourself at night, not what you swear you'll start next week. What is close, what is visible, what is familiar, that is what wins. And the reason this matters so much is because for most of your life, you've been taught to look in the wrong direction when things fall apart. You look inward, you ask, what's wrong with me? Why can't I stay consistent? Why do I always lose momentum? You assume the problem lives inside your character, but it doesn't. The most powerful force shaping your behavior is not your personality, it's not your motivation, it's not your discipline. It's the world you wake up inside every day, your environment. And until you understand how deeply it controls you, you will keep fighting yourself and losing battles that were never fair to begin with. Let's slow this down. When I say environment, I don't just mean your house, or your room, or your office. Environment is everything that touches your behavior before you have time to think. Your phone lighting up, your bed pulling you back in, your couch sitting directly in your line of sight, your kitchen arranged for convenience, not intention, your calendar full of empty gaps, your defaults left unexamined. These things act faster than motivation, faster than logic, faster than willpower. That's why they win. Here is something most people never fully accept. Human behavior is reactive by default. We respond far more than we choose. We react to what is nearby, what is loud, what is comfortable, what is emotionally rewarding. That is not weakness, that is survival. Your brain was designed to conserve energy, avoid unnecessary effort, repeat what worked yesterday. So when you place yourself in an environment that rewards distraction, comfort, instant relief, your brain does exactly what it was built to do. It follows the path of least resistance. And then you call yourself lazy. Let me give you a picture you can feel. It's late at night, you're exhausted, your mind is foggy, your energy is almost gone. Now imagine two versions of the same moment. In the first version, your phone is on your bed, the screen lights up, the TV is playing in the background, snacks are within reach. Tomorrow has no plan, no structure, no boundaries. In the second version, your phone is charging in another room, lights are dim, clothes are laid out for the morning, a simple routine is already decided. The room is quiet, same person, same exhaustion, two completely different outcomes. In one version, you scroll, you delay, you sabotage tomorrow without even noticing. In the other, you rest, you reset, you protect your future self. Was that willpower? Or was that design? This is where people finally stop hating themselves, because they realize something that feels shocking at first. Most behavior is environmental, not moral. You don't fail because you are bad. You fail because your surroundings are louder than your intentions. And your surroundings speak constantly. Every object sends a message. A phone says, check me. A couch says, sit. A bed says, stay. An open app says, scroll. An empty hour says, waste me. You are swimming in messages all day long, and each one steals a tiny piece of energy. By the time evening arrives, you're not weak, you're depleted. Let me say this clearly. Your environment is making decisions on your behalf. Not once, not dramatically, but thousands of times a day. Tiny nudges, small pulls, quiet invitations. One nudge doesn't matter. 1,000 nudges become a habit. Habits don't feel like choices. They feel automatic. And automatic behaviors don't require willpower. They just happen. That's why people say, I don't know why I did that. It just happened. I wasn't even thinking. Exactly. Thinking was never involved. And here's the part most people miss. If your environment acts before thought, no amount of motivation can save you. Motivation arrives after thought, which means it's always late. This is why relying on willpower feels exhausting. You are always reacting after the damage is done. Now let's talk about the world you live in, because context matters. Modern life is engineered to hijack attention, trigger dopamine, reward impulse. Your phone is designed to pull you in. Apps are optimized to keep you scrolling. Food is engineered to override fullness. Notifications fragment your focus. And then society turns around and says, be disciplined. That's like placing someone in a casino, surrounding them with flashing lights and free drinks, and calling them weak for losing money. The game is rigged, not against you personally, against humans. And here's the truth that reframes discipline completely. Strong people don't resist more. They expose themselves less. They don't rely on self-control. They rely on placement. They decide where things go, when things are accessible, what is visible, what is default. They don't fight temptation. They remove it from arm's reach. And from the outside, it looks like willpower, but from the inside, feels like calm. This is why people with well-designed lives look relaxed. They're not battling urges all day. They're not negotiating with themselves every hour. Their environment is doing the heavy lifting. Let me ask you something important. How many decisions did you make today? What to eat, when to respond, whether to scroll, whether to quit, whether to push? Hundreds. And every decision costs energy. Decision fatigue doesn't announce itself. It just shows up as, I don't feel like it. I'll do it later. Not today. That's not laziness. That's depletion. If your environment forces you to decide constantly, you are bleeding energy all day long. And then at night, you judge yourself for having none left. This is why environment is the real lever, because it reduces decisions. And fewer decisions mean more consistency. Let me reframe this in a way that removes guilt. Environment is not about control. It is about compassion. It is how you protect yourself from your lowest energy moments, because those moments will come. You will feel tired, emotional, overwhelmed, unmotivated. That is not a flaw. That is life. And your environment should be designed to catch you in those moments, not punish you. Think about it like this. A good environment says, I know you'll be tired, so I'll make the right choice easy. A bad environment says, good luck. Hope you're strong today. Which one sounds sustainable? This is where people finally feel hope again. Because now change doesn't require becoming a different person. It requires becoming a better architect. You don't need more discipline. You need fewer traps. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer leaks. And here's the most powerful part. You don't need to change everything at once. Tiny environmental shifts create massive behavioral change. Moving your phone, changing what's visible, altering defaults, reducing friction. These changes compound quietly, every day, without effort. That is why environment beats willpower. Because environment does not get tired. It does not argue. It does not negotiate. It simply exists. And once it is aligned, you stop fighting yourself. You stop feeling broken. You stop waiting for motivation. And life starts to feel lighter. Not because you lowered your standards, but because you finally aligned your structure with reality. In the next chapter, we are going to move from the outside to the inside, from what surrounds you to who you believe you are. Because when environment changes, identity begins to shift automatically. And when identity changes, behavior follows without force. Stay with me, because now we stop surviving inside bad systems and start building a life that finally works with you. Chapter 4. The identity shift. Who you become changes what you do. There's one final shift you have to make before everything truly changes, and this one is quiet. But once it happens, you don't go back. Up until now, we've talked about willpower failing you, about environment shaping your behavior, about how most of your actions are reactions. But none of that fully works until you understand this. You don't change your life by changing what you do. You change your life by changing who you believe you are. Because every action you take, every habit you repeat, every choice you default to, is a reflection of identity, not goals, not motivation. Identity. Let me show you what I mean. Most people live their life saying things like, I'm trying to be disciplined. I'm trying to be consistent. I'm trying to change. Trying sounds harmless, but it hides a dangerous belief. Trying means the action is optional. Trying means the identity hasn't changed. You're still someone who might do the thing, if you feel like it, if motivation shows up, if life is calm. But identity doesn't try. Identity acts. A runner doesn't wake up and debate whether they'll run. They run. A non-smoker doesn't fight cigarettes all day. They simply don't smoke. A focused person doesn't ask, should I focus today? They focus because that's who they are. This is the shift most people never make. They try to force behavior without upgrading identity, and then they wonder why it never lasts. Here's the truth. Your brain is always trying to stay consistent with who it thinks you are. If you believe you're inconsistent, your actions will find a way to confirm it. If you believe you're lazy, your behavior will quietly prove it, not because it's true, but because the brain hates contradiction. This is why self-talk matters, not as motivation, but as identity reinforcement. Every time you say, I'm just not disciplined, I always fall off, I can't stick to things, your brain hears a rule and follows it. Now here's the part that changes everything. You don't change identity by saying affirmations. You change identity by collecting evidence. Evidence beats words every time. You don't wake up one day and decide you're disciplined. You become disciplined after showing up again and again and again, even when it's small, especially when it's small. This is where systems matter more than motivation. Systems create repeated behavior. Repeated behavior creates evidence. Evidence rewrites identity. That's the chain. Let me walk you through how this actually feels. When you design your environment properly, when friction is removed, when decisions are reduced, you start showing up. Even on days you don't feel great, not perfectly, but consistently, and your brain starts noticing, oh, we did it again. Oh, we didn't quit. Oh, this is normal now. That's identity forming. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's quiet certainty. You stop arguing with yourself because there's nothing to argue about. You're no longer asking, should I do this? You're answering, this is what I do. That's when discipline stops feeling heavy, because it's no longer force, it's alignment. This is why real change feels calm, not intense, not hyped. Calm, because there's no internal war anymore. Your actions and identity are finally on the same side. Let me make this practical. Instead of saying, I'm trying to work out, you say, I'm someone who doesn't skip twice. Instead of, I'm trying to focus, you say, I'm someone who starts when the time comes. Instead of, I hope I stay consistent, you say, I show up even when it's messy. These are not affirmations. They are rules of identity, and rules change behavior automatically. This is why the most powerful people don't rely on emotion. They rely on identity. Emotion fluctuates. Identity stabilizes. Motivation comes and goes. Identity stays. And here's the most important part. Identity is not something you wait for. It's something you practice. Every small action is a vote. Every repetition strengthens the belief. And eventually, you don't need willpower, because you're no longer forcing yourself to act. You're simply being congruent with who you are. In the next section, we're going to take this identity and lock it into something automatic, something that protects you on your worst days. Not motivation, not discipline, but systems that run quietly in the background, so you don't have to fight yourself anymore. Stay with me, because now, we stop hoping change will last and start making it inevitable. Chapter 5. The moment you stop drifting. Before we go any further, before we talk about systems, before we break down what actually replaces willpower, I want you to slow down with me for a moment, not to stop, not to pause the video, but to notice something. If you are still here right now, still listening, still present, that already separates you from most people. Most people don't stay this long. They skim. They jump ahead. They look for shortcuts. They want transformation without friction. But you didn't leave. And that matters more than you think. Because change doesn't start with motivation. It starts with staying. Staying when the truth gets uncomfortable. Staying when excuses start whispering. Staying when it would be easier to distract yourself. So let me ask you something honestly. Why are you still here? Not the surface answer. Not, I want to improve my life. The deeper one. Is it because you're tired of starting over? Tired of promising yourself, this time is different? Tired of knowing you have more in you, but never quite reaching it? Because if that's you, this isn't just another video. This is a mirror. And mirrors are uncomfortable, but they're honest. Here's something most people don't realize. Listening this long means you already know the truth. You don't need more information. You need commitment. Not loud commitment. Not emotional commitment. Quiet commitment. The kind that doesn't announce itself. The kind that doesn't need motivation. The kind that shows up when no one is watching. And this is the moment where that commitment either forms or fades. So I want you to do something simple, but powerful. If you are still listening right now, if this message feels like it's speaking directly to you, go to the comments and type these exact words. I'm done trying. Type it slowly, deliberately. Not for me, for you. Because trying is where most people stay stuck. Trying sounds responsible, but it's deceptive. Trying leaves the door open to quitting. Trying keeps failure safe. Trying gives you an exit. And exits are comfortable. But comfort is what kept you where you are. When you type, I'm done trying, you're not making a promise. You're making a decision. You're telling your brain, I'm no longer negotiating. I'm no longer experimenting. I'm no longer half in. You're drawing a line. And lines change behavior. This isn't about perfection after this. You will still have bad days, low energy days, messy days. That's human. But you will no longer be someone who drifts. You will be someone who returns. Returns to structure. Returns to action. Returns to alignment. That's the difference. Let me say something important. Without pressure. Without hype. Most people never make this decision. They consume. They nod along. They feel inspired. And then they go back to life as usual. Not because they're lazy, but because they never crossed the internal line. They never said, this applies to me now. And that's what this moment is about. This is not a comment. It's a declaration. And once it's declared, something shifts internally. Your brain starts watching you, not judging, observing. It looks for consistency. It looks for follow-through. And in the chapters ahead, we're going to give it exactly that. But before we move on, there's something else I want to say. If you want to surround yourself with people who think this way, who refuse to drift, who build systems instead of excuses, then you're already in the right place. This channel is not for everyone. It's not for people who want comfort, or easy motivation, or temporary hype. It's for people who want their lives to work, even when they're tired, even when they're emotional, even when motivation is gone. So if that's the kind of person you're becoming, not loudly, not desperately, but intentionally, like the video, subscribe. Not to support a channel, but to align yourself with an identity. People who choose structure over chaos, systems over feelings, consistency over intensity. Welcome. Now let me bring you back into the lesson. Everything we've covered so far has been leading here. Willpower fails. Environment shapes behavior. Identity drives action. And all of that leads to one unavoidable conclusion. If your life depends on motivation, your life will always feel unstable. Motivation is emotional, and emotions fluctuate. They rise, they fall, they disappear when stress hits. But systems don't care how you feel. They don't argue. They don't wait. They don't negotiate. They simply run. And when systems are built correctly, they protect you. They carry you through low energy days. They reduce decisions. They remove friction. They do the work for you. And in the next chapter, we're going to break this down clearly. What systems actually are, why boring systems beat intense motivation every time, and how to build them in a way that feels human, and sustainable. No hype, no grind, no force, just a way of living that stops draining you. Stay with me, because from this point on, we stop diagnosing the problem and start installing the solution. Chapter 6. A system is far better than motivation. Why boring wins. Here is the truth that almost no one wants to hear, because it sounds too simple, too quiet, too ordinary. The people who change their lives permanently are not the most motivated people. They are the most boring. Not boring in their dreams, not boring in their creativity, not boring in who they are as humans, boring in how they operate. Their days don't look dramatic. Their routines don't look impressive. Their process doesn't look heroic. And that's exactly why it works. Because motivation is exciting, but excitement is unstable, and unstable things collapse. Let's talk honestly about motivation. Not the Instagram version, not the movie version, the real one. Motivation feels powerful. It gives you energy. It creates hope. It makes you believe that this time is different. You wake up inspired. You clean up your life. You write big goals. You promise yourself everything will change. And for a short moment, you feel unstoppable. But motivation has a flaw that almost no one talks about. It only shows up when conditions are good, when you slept well, when your emotions are calm, when stress is low, when life is cooperating. And real life does not cooperate. Real life interrupts. Real life drains you. Real life hits you when you're tired. Which means any plan that depends on motivation is fragile by design. That's why motivation always fades. Not because you failed, not because you didn't want it enough, but because motivation was never designed to carry the weight of a human life. Let me slow this down. Motivation is a spark, not an engine. Sparks start fires. Engines keep them burning. If your entire life depends on sparks, you will keep stalling. You surge forward. You crash. You recover. You surge again. This emotional roller coaster feels productive, but it's exhausting. And exhaustion kills consistency faster than laziness ever could. Now let's contrast that with systems. A system does not ask how you feel. A system does not care about your mood. A system does not negotiate. A system answers one question: what happens next? And that's it. Systems remove emotion from execution. Not from life, from execution. And that distinction changes everything. Because execution should be boring, so life can be rich. This is where people misunderstand systems. They hear the word and imagine something cold, rigid, mechanical. They imagine losing freedom, creativity, joy. But the opposite is true. A system is simply a decision you make once, so you don't have to make it again. And that is not restriction. That is relief. Let me show you the difference clearly. Motivation wakes up and asks, do I feel like doing this today? Am I in the mood? Is today the right day? The system wakes up and says, this is what we do now. Motivation argues. The system moves. Motivation drains energy. The system preserves it. Motivation feels heroic. The system feels calm. And calm is where real power lives. Think about the calmest people you know. The ones who seem grounded, consistent, unshaken. They're not intense. They're not dramatic. They don't talk about discipline. They just show up. Same time, same process, same rules. And because of that, they don't burn out. Burnout doesn't come from effort. It comes from emotional volatility. High highs, low lows. Systems flatten the curve. They turn chaos into rhythm. Let me tell you something most people miss. Systems are not built to make you productive. They are built to protect you from yourself. From your low energy days, your emotional days, your distracted days. Because those days are guaranteed. Motivation assumes you'll be strong. Systems assume you'll be human. And that is why systems win. Let's bring this into real life. When you say, I'll work out when I feel motivated, you are handing control to emotion. Emotion that fluctuates. Emotion that disappears under stress. But when you say, I work out after I brush my teeth, emotion is removed entirely. Now it's just sequence. And sequences are powerful. Because the brain loves patterns. Patterns create momentum. Momentum creates consistency. Consistency creates identity. This is how boring systems compound. They don't impress anyone today. They don't feel dramatic. But 6 months later, a year later, 5 years later, they quietly change everything. Here's another truth that surprises people. The more you rely on motivation, the more emotionally unstable your life becomes. You ride waves, you surge, you crash. Systems calm the nervous system because they remove uncertainty. You don't wake up wondering what to do. You don't debate. You don't spiral. You simply follow the next step. And that steadiness creates peace. Peace is not laziness. Peace is efficiency. Let me tell you a story that happens every day. Two people want to change their lives. Person one relies on motivation. They go all in. They overhaul everything. Diet, sleep, workouts, work schedule. And for a while, it works. Then life hits. Stress rises. Sleep drops. Energy disappears. They miss one day. Then another. Guilt shows up. And guilt is heavier than fatigue. They're starting again. Person two builds a system. Small, almost unimpressive. Same time, same place, same trigger. They don't care how they feel. They don't care if it's messy. They follow the rule. 6 months later, person one is motivated again. Person two doesn't even think about it anymore. That's the difference. One life is emotional. The other is structural. This is why systems feel boring. Because there's no drama, no inner battle, no heroic struggle, just quiet execution. And quiet execution always beats loud intention. Here's where people go wrong. They try to build systems that are too intense, too perfect, too demanding. They design systems for their best days, not their worst. Then when the system breaks, they blame themselves, or they abandon systems altogether. But here's the truth. A system that only works when you feel good is not a system. It's a fantasy. Real systems assume resistance. They assume low energy. They assume distraction. They assume imperfection. And they work anyway. This is where minimum standards matter. Not I'll do everything, but I'll do the minimum that keeps the chain alive. Because consistency beats intensity every time. Let me say that again. Consistency beats intensity every time. One more truth people don't expect. Systems don't kill creativity. They create space for it. When survival is automated, the mind is free. Free to think. Free to imagine. Free to create. This is why the most creative people in history had rigid routines. The routine handled chaos. The human handled imagination. You don't build systems to become a machine. You build systems so you don't have to be one. You are not the machine. The system is the machine. It protects your energy, your focus, your emotional stability, so you can be human. This is why people who live by systems look relaxed. They're not constantly deciding. They're not constantly resisting. They are living inside rails they built themselves. And rails don't trap you. They guide you. Let me anchor this deeply. Motivation asks you to rise to the moment. Systems bring the moment down to you. Motivation says, try harder. Systems say, make it easier. Motivation demands strength. Systems assume weakness and design around it. And that's not pessimism. That's wisdom. Because the goal is not to prove how strong you are. The goal is to build a life that works. Even when you're tired. Even when you're emotional. Even when nothing feels inspiring. That is real success. And now, you are ready for the next chapter. Because next, we stop speaking in theory. We walk through the exact systems that replace willpower. Not abstract ideas. Not philosophy. But 4 concrete systems that quietly run your life in the background. And will follow one person. Someone who relied on willpower, failed, and finally stopped fighting themselves. Stay with me, because this is where everything you've learned stops being information and becomes a life you can actually live. Chapter 7. The 4 non-negotiable systems. Before we talk about systems, before we explain frameworks, before we turn this into strategy, I need you to meet someone, because if I just list 4 ideas, your brain will nod, agree, and forget. But if you see yourself in a story, you won't unsee it. So let me tell you about Alex. Alex is not lazy. Alex is not stupid. Alex is not lacking ambition. Alex is tired. Tired of starting over. Tired of getting excited. Tired of feeling like this time will be different. For years, Alex believed the same thing you were taught. If I just try harder. If I just stay disciplined. If I just stop being weak. So Alex relied on willpower. Every Sunday night, new plan. New schedule. New version of himself. Monday morning. Alarm rings. Alex wakes up motivated, focused, locked in. He eats clean. He works hard. He avoids distractions. He feels proud. And for a moment, he believes it again. But then life shows up. Tuesday brings less sleep. Wednesday brings stress. Thursday brings something unexpected. A long day, an argument, a deadline. Energy drops, mood drops. And by Friday, Alex is scrolling again, snacking again, skipping again. Not because he chose to fail, but because he ran out. And every time it happened, the same thought hit him like a punch. What's wrong with me? Alex watched other people stay consistent, in control, and he assumed they had something he didn't. More discipline, more willpower, more strength. But Alex didn't have a willpower problem. Alex had no systems. And once he saw that, everything changed. Not overnight, not dramatically, but permanently. Let's rewind Alex's life and rebuild it the way no one ever taught him. System number 1, environment design. Make the right action the easy action. The first thing Alex noticed was uncomfortable. Every bad habit in his life was easy. Every good habit required effort. The phone was on the bed. Junk food was visible. The couch faced the TV. His workspace was chaotic. So every day, Alex wasn't choosing badly. He was obeying convenience. And once he saw that, he stopped asking, how do I resist this? And asked a better question. How do I remove the fight? Alex moved his phone out of the bedroom. Not forever, just at night. The first morning felt strange, quiet, almost empty. But he noticed something. He didn't need willpower to get up. There was nothing pulling him back down. Alex laid his workout clothes where he could see them. Not hidden, not optional. Alex rearranged the kitchen. Healthy food visible. Junk harder to reach. Nothing extreme. Nothing perfect. Just easier. And within days, something shifted. Alex wasn't being disciplined. He was simply responding to what was in front of him. That's when it clicked. Environment doesn't force behavior. It quietly decides it. Once the environment stopped fighting him, Alex stopped feeling exhausted. System number 2, default rules. Decide once, so you don't decide every day. Even with a better environment, Alex noticed something else draining him. Constant decisions. Should I work out today? Should I eat better today? Should I focus right now? Those questions felt small, but they were heavy. Every question was a negotiation. Every negotiation burned energy. So Alex made a change. He created default rules, not goals, not hopes. I work out on weekdays, no decision. I start work at the same time, no debate. I eat what's planned, no discussion. The first felt rigid, but then Alex felt something unexpected. Relief. No arguing, no convincing, no mental drama. On hard days, Alex didn't ask how he felt. He followed the rule. Not perfectly, but automatically. And automatic is powerful, because emotion is what breaks consistency. Defaults remove emotion. System number 3, minimum standards. Never miss twice. This is where Alex used to fail completely. All or nothing thinking. If he couldn't do the full workout, he skipped entirely. If he couldn't focus perfectly, he gave up. One bad day became a lost week. A lost week became a reset. So Alex changed the rule. Not do everything, but do the minimum that keeps the chain alive. 5 minutes counted. 1 page counted. 1 task counted. Because showing up matters more than intensity. This was uncomfortable at first. It felt too small. Not enough. But something powerful happened. Alex stopped breaking streaks. Bad days no longer destroyed progress. They were absorbed, and identity stayed intact. Because the real enemy was never missing once. It was missing twice. This is where most people finally win. Not by doing more, but by quitting less. System number 4, identity lock-in. Act first. Feelings follow. This was the final shift. The one that changed everything. Alex realized his old rule was broken. I'll act when I feel motivated. So he replaced it with one sentence. I am a person who acts before I feel. Not someday. Not when ready. No. On tired days, Alex acted anyway. Not intensely. Not perfectly. But consistently. And something unexpected happened. Motivation showed up after action. Energy followed movement. Confidence followed consistency. Alex finally understood. Feelings are followers, not leaders. Once this identity locked in, waiting disappeared. Action became automatic. Now step back and look at Alex's life. He didn't become superhuman. He didn't unlock infinite willpower. He stopped relying on it entirely. Environment carried him. Defaults guided him. Minimums protected him. Identity sealed it. That's why these 4 systems are non-negotiable. Remove one, the structure weakens. Together, they make change inevitable. Let me say this directly to you. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more discipline. You need a life that doesn't require either. A life where the right thing is easier than the wrong thing. Where decisions are already made. Where bad days don't erase progress. Where action comes before emotion. That's how Alex changed. Quietly, calmly, permanently. And in the next chapter, we take these 4 systems and install them step by step. Not hypothetically, not philosophically, practically, so they start working for you, even on your worst days. Stay with me, because now, you stop trying to change your life and start building one that runs on autopilot. Chapter 8. Installing the systems, a simple step-by-step framework. Now we stop talking in stories and start building something real, because understanding systems is one thing, installing them into your actual life is another. And this is where most people fail quietly, not because they don't understand, but because they try to change everything at once. So I need you to slow down here. This chapter is not about doing more. It's about doing less, but doing it correctly. If you try to overhaul your entire life after this, you'll break the system before it has a chance to protect you. So we're going to do this the way it actually works. Step by step, layer by layer. No motivation required. Step 1. Stop trying to fix yourself. Fix the structure Instead, before you change a single habit, before you download a planner, before you write a goal, you need to uninstall one belief, that you are the problem. Because the moment you think you are broken, every failure feels personal, every slip feels like proof. So the first system is mental, but not motivational, structural. From this point forward, every failure means one thing. The system is weak, not you. That's the rule. You don't say, I messed up again. You say, the structure didn't support me. This removes shame. And shame is what collapses progress. Without this step, nothing else holds. Step 2. Install environment. First, not habits. Make the row. Thing annoying. This is where people rush, and where you slow down. You do not start by trying harder. You start by walking through your day like an architect. Morning, afternoon, night. And you ask one question over and over. What is silently pulling me off course? Your phone, your bed, your couch, your kitchen, your notifications. You don't remove everything. You don't become extreme. You make bad choices slightly harder, and good choices slightly easier. That's it. Phone charging outside the bedroom. One app removed from the home screen. Work clothes visible. Junk food out of immediate reach. Tiny changes. But here's the key. You change one environment at a time. Not your whole life. Bedroom first, then workspace, then kitchen. Because environment compounds quietly. You don't feel powerful doing this, but a week later, you feel light. That's the sign it's working. Step 3. Create default rules. Decide. Once. Remove daily negotiation. Once your environment stops fighting you, you remove the second enemy, decision fatigue. Most people don't fail because they choose wrong. They fail because they choose too often. So you install defaults. Defaults are pre-decided answers, not goals, not hopes. And rules should feel boring. Examples. I start work at the same time every weekday. I move my body before checking my phone. I eat what's planned, not what I feel like. No debate, no emotion. When the moment arrives, the rule speaks for you. This will feel uncomfortable at first, because your brain likes freedom. But what it really likes is certainty. And certainty is calming. You're not becoming rigid. You're becoming predictable. Predictability is power. Step 4. Set minimum standards designed for bad days. This is where most people finally win. Now we protect the system, because even with environment and defaults, you will still have bad days, low energy, emotional days, messy days, so we design for them. Your minimum standard is the action that feels almost too easy. 5 minutes, 1 page, 1 task. And here's the rule. Minimums count as success. No guilt. No, it doesn't matter thinking. Minimums protect identity. They keep the chain alive. Because missing once is human. Missing twice is how habits die. This step alone will save you months, maybe a year. Because you stop restarting. You just continue. Step 5, identity rule, the final. Lockout. This is the line that changes everything. Now we install the final rule. The one that replaces motivation completely. This is not optional. This is the rule you come back to on every hard day. Here it is. I am a person who acts before I feel. You do not wait to feel ready. You do not wait to feel motivated. You act first, then feelings follow. Every time. This rule removes waiting. And waiting is where dreams rot. Say it slowly. I act before I feel. This is not a mantra. It's a decision framework. On tired days, you act anyway. On emotional days, you act anyway. Not intensely, not perfectly, but according. G to the system. And over time, this becomes who you are. Step 6, run the SY. Stem for 30 days, no optimization. Do not improve it yet. This is critical. Once the system is installed, you do not tweak it. You do not optimize it. You do not chase perfection. You run it exactly as designed for 30 days. Why? Because systems don't reveal power immediately. They reveal power through repetition. If you keep adjusting, you never see compounding. So the rule is simple. No upgrades, no additions, no new goals, just execution. Most people quit right before the system takes over. You won't. Step 7, measure calm, not results. This is how you know it's working. Here's how you know the system is installed. Not by dramatic results, but by this feeling. Calm. Less internal debate, less self-hate, less pressure, more neutrality, more flow, more automatic action. When things feel quieter, you're winning. Because CA means friction is gone, and friction W as the real enemy all along. Step 8, only then, scale. Never before. After 30 days, you may increase standards, slightly. Not more habits, not more goals, just a bit more depth. 5 minutes becomes 10. 1 task becomes 2. But never at the cost of consistency. Consistency is sacred. Intensity is optional. Let me say this clearly and slowly. You are not building discipline. You are building a machine. A machine that protects you, carries you, catches you on bad days. You are not the machine. You are the human it protects. That's the shift. This is how willpower becomes irrelevant. This is how change stops feeling heavy. This is how your life starts running forward, even when you don't feel like pushing. And in the next chapter, we're going to talk about what happens after the system is installed, the unexpected side effects, the resistance you'll feel, and how to know when you're finally on the other side. Stay with me, because now you're not learning anymore. You're building something that lasts. Chapter 9. The resistance phase, when the old you tries to pull you back. Now we need to talk about the part nobody warns you about. The phase that confuses people. The phase that makes them think something is wrong, even when everything is actually working. This is called the resistance phase. And if you don't understand it, you will sabotage yourself right here. Because the moment your life starts becoming stable, predictable, your old identity will panic. Not loudly, quietly. Let me explain. When you install systems, when your environment supports you, when defaults are running, when minimums protect you, something strange happens. Your life gets quieter, less chaos, less emotional drama, less last-minute panic, and for the first time in a long time, you're not fighting yourself every day. That sounds good, but here's the part nobody expects. Calm feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels unsafe, even when it's better. Your nervous system has memory. It remembers chaos. It remembers urgency. It remembers emotional intensity. And when those things disappear, your brain doesn't say thank you. Something is missing. This is where resistance begins. not as laziness, not as rebellion, but as subtle self-sabotage. Let me describe what this looks like. You start thinking things like, this feels too easy. I should be doing more. Am I getting lazy? Why do I feel kind of empty? Is this really working? Nothing is broken, but doubt shows up anyway. Not because the system failed, but because your identity is being rewired. An identity does not change quietly. It resists, because your old identity was built in chaos, in last-minute effort, in emotional pressure, in urgency. You were the person who waited until the deadline, who needed stress to move, who relied on panic as fuel. That identity got results sometimes, and because it worked occasionally, your brain trusted it. Now suddenly, you're acting without panic, without pressure, without emotional spikes, and your brain asks, who are we now? This is where most people quit, not because things got hard, but because things got different, and different feels wrong at first. Let me say this clearly. Resistance is not a sign you're failing. It's a sign the system is working. Because resistance only appears when an old pattern is losing control. Think about it. If nothing had changed, your old habits wouldn't feel threatened. But now, they are. So they fight back. Not with force, with whispers. They sound reasonable, logical, convincing. You don't need this system anymore. You've proven you can do it. One day off won't matter. You deserve a break. You can handle it without structure now. These thoughts are dangerous because they feel calm, but they are invitations back to chaos. This is why you must understand the resistance phase, because it always shows up after momentum, not before. Let me walk you through the 3 most common forms of resistance. Form number 1, boredom disguised as freedom. This one confuses people the most. Your systems are running, you're showing up, progress is happening, but emotionally, feels flat. No rush, no adrenaline, no urgency. And your brain says, this is boring. Here's the truth. Boring is not failure. Boring is stability. Your old life felt intense because it was unstable. High highs, low lows. Systems flatten that. They remove drama. And drama was your brain's dopamine source. So when drama disappears, your brain wants it back. Not because it was good, but because it was familiar. This is where people spice things up. They skip routines. They add random goals. They break defaults. And suddenly, chaos returns. Not because they wanted chaos, but because boredom felt threatening. You must learn this rule. Boredom means the system is holding. Do not interfere. Form number 2, the I've earned it trap. This one feels justified. You've been consistent. You've shown up. You've made progress. And a voice says, you've earned a break. Now hear this carefully. Breaks are not the problem. Breaking structure is the problem. Rest inside the system is healthy. Rest outside the system is dangerous. The old you didn't rest. The old you collapsed. So when you feel this urge, the answer is not push harder. The answer is, how do I rest without breaking the system? Lower the minimum, not the rule. 5 minutes instead of 30, 1 task instead of 10. This preserve this identity, because once identity breaks, momentum follows. Form number 3, self-doubt disguised as intelligence. This one sounds smart. You start analyzing. Is this optimal? Should I improve the system? Is there a better approach? Am I limiting myself? This is your old self trying to regain control. Optimization too early is sabotage. Let me say that again. Early optimization kills systems, because systems need time to compound. Your only job during resistance is this. Do not change the rules. Change your patience. Now let me tell you something important. The resistance phase does not last forever. It has one purpose, to test whether this new version of you is real or temporary. And the test is simple. Will you return to chaos or stay with calm? This is the exact moment where identity locks in. If you stay, if you do not break the system, if you let boredom pass, if you let doubt fade, something shifts. Your nervous system recalibrates. Calm stops feeling empty and starts feeling safe. Structure stops feeling restrictive and starts feeling supportive. This is when you realize something quietly powerful. You are no longer forcing yourself. You are being carried. This is also when people around you notice. Not because you talk about it, but because your energy changes. You're less reactive, less scattered, more grounded, not intense, stable. That's real strength. Let me anchor this deeply. The resistance phase is the last barrier, not to success, but to peace. And most people turn back right before crossing it. You won't, because now you know what it is. So when resistance shows up, and it will, you don't panic, you don't adjust, you don't quit. You say, this means it's working. And you keep going, because on the other side of resistance is a life that no longer requires force. A life where consistency feels normal, where progress feels inevitable, where chaos no longer controls you. And in the final chapter, we're going to lock this in permanently, with one rule, one sentence, one identity anchor that pulls everything together. Stay with me, because this is where the old you finally lets go, and the new you takes over. Chapter 10. Final lock-in, the one rule that changes everything. Before this ends, before the sound fades, before you go back into your life, there is one final thing you need to hear. Not another system, not another framework, not another explanation. One rule, one sentence, one line that pulls everything together and makes the last 90 minutes mean something real. Because if you forget everything else, the details blur, the steps fade, this rule stays, and if you live by it, your life will not return to what it was. Let me take you back for a moment. Think about where you started, the frustration, the cycles, the feeling that you knew what to do, but couldn't make yourself do it. You weren't lazy, you weren't broken, you were relying on willpower, in a life designed to drain it. So we replaced force with structure, motivation with systems, chaos with calm. We redesigned your environment, installed defaults, protected bad days, rebuilt identity, and now, you're standing at the edge of something new. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Nothing is locked in yet. Not until this rule becomes part of you. Because systems run behavior, but rules run identity. And identity decides what you return to when no one is watching, when things get hard again, when life inevitably hits you sideways. So here it is, the rule you don't negotiate with, the rule you don't debate, the rule that ends waiting forever. Say it slowly, not out loud, inside. I am a person who acts before I feel. That's it. Simple. Almost underwhelming. And that's why it works. Let's unpack why this single sentence is so powerful. Because most of your life, you were taught the opposite rule. Feel ready, then act. Feel motivated, then start. Feel confident, then move. That rule sounds reasonable, sounds kind, sounds logical, but it quietly ruins lives. Because feelings are unstable. And life is not designed to wait for you to feel ready. So when you obey feelings, you delay action. And delay becomes identity. You become the person who almost started. The person who had potential. The person who knew what to do. That rule kept you stuck. So we replace it, not with hype, not with aggression, but with truth. Action first, feelings follow. Every time. Let me slow this down. You do not wake up motivated and then take action. You take action, and motivation shows up after. You do not feel confident and then begin. You begin, and confidence follows proof. You do not feel disciplined and then stay consistent. You stay consistent, and discipline becomes identity. Feelings are not leaders, they are echoes. They respond to what you do. And once you understand this, waiting loses its power. Waiting is the enemy you never saw. Waiting for the right mood, waiting for clarity, waiting for energy, waiting for confidence. Waiting feels passive, but it's active damage. Because every day you wait, you rehearse being someone who waits. This rule ends that I act before I feel means, on tired days, you still show up. At the minimum, on emotional days, you still follow the system. On confused days, you still take the next step. Not perfectly, not intensely, but intentionally. Let me tell you what this rule is not. It is not ignore your emotions. It is not push yourself into the ground. It is not become cold or robotic. Remember what you learned earlier. You are not the machine. The system is the machine. This rule doesn't crush the human. It protects the human. Because acting before you feel is not about force. It's about momentum. Once you move, even slightly, your nervous system shifts. Your brain recalibrates. Your emotions realign. This is biology, not mindset. Movement creates energy. Energy creates emotion. Emotion reinforces identity, not the other way around. Let me give you a picture. Think about the days you felt the best, the calmest, the proudest. They didn't start with you feeling amazing. They started with you doing one thing right, then another. Action stacked, and emotion followed. Now think about the worst spirals. They didn't begin with catastrophe. They began with inaction, delay, avoidance. You waited, then waited more, and your feelings darkened after. So this rule is not new. It's simply conscious. Now here's where this becomes permanent. This rule must become your default response. When you don't know what to do, you act. When you feel resistance, you act. When you feel like skipping, you act. Not everything, just the next right thing. This is how big lives are built. Quietly, without drama. Let me say something that may surprise you. The people you admire, the ones who seem disciplined, grounded, in control, they are not constantly motivated. They are not constantly confident. They simply don't wait. They move first and let feelings catch up. That's the secret no one markets, because it's not glamorous, but it's unstoppable. This is also why this rule must be repeated. Not once, not twice, but daily. You don't need to chant it, you live it. Every time you feel the urge to delay, you remember, I act before I feel. Every time your mind says, not today, you answer, just this step. And here's the paradox. The more you live this rule, the less effort it takes, because identity locks in. You stop being someone who waits and become someone who moves quietly, naturally. This is the moment where the old you loses power. The version of you that needed pressure, deadlines, guilt, fear. That version fades, because pressure was never strength. It was instability. Calm action is strength. Now I want to speak directly to you, not the future you, not the ideal version. Right now, you do not need to feel ready after this video. You do not need to feel inspired. You do not need to feel confident. You only need to act. Once, something small, something boring. Make the bed. Open the document, put on the shoes, start the timer. Action before feeling. That single act will do more for your life than another hour of thinking. This is how the video ends, but it's not how your change ends. Because change doesn't come from information. It comes from the rule you return to, on good days, on bad days, on ordinary days. So let me anchor this one last time. If you remember nothing else, remember this. You are not waiting for motivation anymore. You are not waiting for clarity. You are not waiting for confidence. You move first and let life respond. That is how you stop relying on willpower. That is how systems become automatic. That is how identity becomes stable. That is how change becomes permanent. Now do not rush from this moment. Sit with it, and when the video ends, do not think, even once, because that single action is how this rule becomes real. And once it's real, you don't go back. You don't start over. You don't reset. You continue, calmly, quietly, relentlessly. Welcome to the version of you who no longer waits, the one who moves first and lets feelings follow.